Hello, and welcome to Chaos to Clarity, the podcast that's your compass to navigate the exciting world of service based businesses. If you're a determined woman in your current business adventure, striving to conquer the chaos and build your empire, then you are in the right place. I'm your host, Maggie, your go to business bestie and chaos navigator. I've spent nearly 2 decades in the service based industry, building a photography business, a yoga studio, and now a thriving coaching practice. I've cracked the code to consistent income without all the chaos and noise. So get ready to increase your business growth, connect with your ideal clients, and find ease in both business and in life. It's time to turn your frustrations into inspiration and your chaos into clarity. So go ahead and grab your coffee, a pen and paper, and let's dive into the journey of building your dream service-based business together. Are you ready? Let's go. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. Welcome to season 2 of the bonus interviews. My name is Maggie, and today I am here with Ashley Bryant, who is a copywriter. I'm going to let her take it away and introduce herself.
Hi, Maggie. So happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Ashley Bryant. I'm the founder of Ashley Bryant Copy, and I am a copywriter and digital marketer for holistic and sustainable e-commerce brands. And so I help my customers ignite their sales, their brand awareness, refresh their messaging through PPC ads, website copy, and email marketing.
I love that. That's so awesome. So, how have conversations helped you get to where you are in business? Like, what does a conversation with you look like from a kind of client to, like, if you're talking to a client, how does that help you grow your businesses and theirs?
Um, Thank you for asking me that. So, a lot of the times, the first time that I have a conversation with a client, it really is just like a fact-finding conversation, right? Like I want them to understand where I'm coming from and my mission and how I will utilize my skills to help them, but then also see where they are coming from. What are the issues that they're having within their business? Is it they're not getting sales? Are we not getting traffic to the site? Are, your open rates low or your rates low? And then just kind of digging deeper and just asking question after question after question based off of their answer. Because I feel like a lot of times what happens is, and I think that you could probably understand this too as a coach, you have a client come in and they're like, this is my problem. And you're like, okay. And then we start talking and it's like, well, that's not your problem. The problem actually is this, and that's what's manifesting into what you think is the problem. So the conversation piece is definitely really, really critical, um, and something that I encourage and try not to kind of rush through. And if it has to be multiple conversations, then it has to be multiple conversations. But I feel like the times that we didn't really dig into really what the problem was, the results showed that until we were able to kind of like, okay, well, now we have to stop what we're doing. We have to go back and really understand all of it. I need like the full picture so that I am able to, you know, to help you and help you reach your goal.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's so important when you're working with anyone to support your business, right? Being able and open to asking questions and having that conversation and really having that back and forth. I think a lot of people underestimate the power of that. Like, I think it's problem A, but then you as the expert, you come in and you're like, okay, yes, and it might be more
Mhm.
of problem B. Let's solve problem B, and then problem A might go away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So, in your copywriting business, I'm guessing that a lot of what you do is help with lead generation, right? With
Hmm.
copywriting, you want to bring people to the website. So can you talk a little bit about lead generation and just a little bit of the strategy that you kind of sprinkle in for your clients when it comes to copywriting?
Definitely. So, yes, you are correct. A lot of it is lead generation. And so, what I do is when we first begin working together, even if you already kind of have like a brand book or, you already have like your market research, I'm still going to go through and do my own because a lot of times, yes, that is your customer, but we could really like hone in, we can narrow down into seeing who exactly is your ideal customer. Like you got it a little bit, but we could go deeper. Um, and so just making a strategy just tailored to their brand, obviously like based off of like proven methodology, but not just taking like, oh, I use this strategy for a jewelry company, but you sell socks. So we're going to do this. Well, no, you can't do the same thing. We have to shift and we have to figure out what's going to be best for not only your company, but also your clients. And then once doing all of that and doing the market research for exactly who their customer is on a micro level instead of like, a macro, then creating the copy and the messaging that's going to resonate for those people. Um, I was having a conversation with somebody like a while ago, and she was like, well, e-commerce, like you're not really solving a problem. I said, well, no, you are. Not like a huge problem, right? Like it's not like a huge problem like that in most cases, that maybe like a coach or somebody like that would, but you're still solving a problem like cufflinks, oh, I have to go to a wedding. I don't have cufflinks. Well, that's a problem. So we have
Mhm.
to solve it for you, right? Like yoga socks. I need to go to a yoga class. The yoga socks that I have, I'm slipping and sliding all over the room. I can't, hold my poses and now I'm frustrated. That's a problem. So now we're solving that problem. So it's just a different kind of way of thinking about it. But again, knowing that customer, you're able to really see it kind of like it's like a whole new world, right? Like it's, the customer now, you know what we need to talk about, and now we know a problem that we need to address, and then we know how to attack it, right? For lack of better words.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and I know this from my own experiences, right? When you go into business of any kind, you're like, yay, I'm going to solve the problem for everyone,
Yes.
right? And you're like, ah, I'm going to sell these yoga socks to everyone. And all of a sudden, you're trying to literally shout into the void instead of narrowing down and like honing in on like, how can I tell my best friend about this product? Like, what am I going to tell my best friend about this product? And getting really specific. So I
Mhm.
think when you can get down to that level, it now becomes easier and less frustrating and crazy to be like, I'm shouting into the void, trying to attract everyone instead of like, oh, no, you know what? I'm just like, I bought this really cool thing and now I'm gonna go tell my best friend about it. And, like they're probably gonna go buy it too, right? Like that level of marketing, I think can be
Mhm.
so powerful.
100%, 100%. Because to your point, like just shouting into the void and, you are not only wasting your time, but if you're running ads, like you're just spending money fast. And then
Right.
you're frustrated because you're spending money fast with no return. And then, you are making decisions that you probably didn't have to make. And, God forbid you decide to close your business when we probably didn't even need to do that. We just needed to do a deeper dive on exactly what it is that you were doing in your strategy and then how just change it. Like, let's just change it, right? Just
Right.
start from the beginning.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get stuck in the emotions of like, oh my gosh, if I change this thing, what are other people going to think? Instead of just making the decision to change and shift and move on and try that new thing with, like there's always going to be outside judgment or what we perceive as outside judgment, right? And most of the time, I mean, in the last almost 20 years, right? I've owned businesses for almost 20 years. And in that time, like, when I've changed, I've been like, oh my gosh, so and so is gonna think blah 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 blah. And it's me like projecting my own feelings. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, they actually really don't care.
Right. I was gonna say nobody's really paying that much attention to you.
No,
Like, stop
no,
being weird. Stop being
right.
weird. Nobody's
Oh my
paying
God.
that much attention.
Yeah, totally. It's totally like my own judgment. And, once I realize that, I'm like, oh. I can just make the shift and move forward, and my life is better for it, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't have that weight of the world on my shoulders. Awesome. So I know you and I have talked a little bit about human design in the DMs over the last little while. I would
Mhm.
love to know what is your like how invested, maybe not invested is the wrong word, but how like into your human design are you? Like what do you know about your design right now?
Well, so I am a projector and I like to pretend like I am, what's the one that has a lot of energy?
A manifesting generator,
Yeah,
a managing,
manifested a
yeah.
Manny Gen. I like to pretend every day that I'm a Manny Gen, um, with the energy of a projector, and I have a chronic illness that takes a lot of my energy away. So it's like super fun over here. So I'm trying to get out of that denial, and really, you know, accepting, like we talked about, like
Yeah.
accepting that no, this is kind of how I operate. And for a long time, we talked about this. Like I was just, you know, so I came to know human design through like a copywriting course, and the girls that, well, the women that I was in the course with, and they are very much into this. And so, I did my little thing and I found out that I was a projector, and they were like, you have to wait for the invitation. And I was like, so then I do nothing? I'm confused. This makes no sense. Like I trying to run a business, like I can't like do nothing. But so, our conversations have been, you still put yourself out there. And then if somebody wants to talk, then you take that as the invitation. Because before that, yeah, like I mean, it was like how, it's weird. You can do everything for everybody else, but when it comes to yourself, you're like, I have no idea. I forgot how to do this. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know, step one. But I was talking to people that like clearly did not care what I had to say, or just like it wasn't a fit, or just they weren't ready to hear what I have had to say. And that like has been my life. So any projectors out there, if you know what I'm talking about, I feel you, girlfriend. I feel you, baby. But trying to, like I said, like lean into, yeah, you're a projector. And so you don't have a lot of energy. Yeah, you're a projector. So you have, and I'm a 6'2", like we talked about, right? And so like, you see things differently. I've always seen things so differently than anybody else. And I've always been like, you could do this way. And it would just be just do it this way. And it would be amazing, right? And I've always caught the person like when they're not ready to hear it. But then afterwards, like, some time had gone by and it's like, oh, I tried that and it was great. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? But it is that, it's like a sweet spot that, you're still trying to find, I guess,
Hmm.
and still trying to like really understand. Because I mean, let's be real, like, you've gone your entire life being one way, or maybe a few ways, right? I've pivoted a lot. So, but your mindset one way. And then you're like, oh, wait, this is why everything was difficult. It didn't have to be so difficult. So, like, the mindset of trying to like make that change when you still have this part of you that's like, but no, because you should do it this way. And it's like, yeah, but bro, like it wasn't working. So we need to,
Right.
like how I tell how you tell your clients, like, bro, but
Yes.
it's not working, bro. Like we got to do something else. But it's really difficult within your mind. So long story short, sorry, but long story short, that's kind of how it's going with the projector and human design.
And I just want to say every projector that I meet is always trying to keep up with the Manny Gen energy, which I mean, it kind of checks because most of the like 70% of the world is either a generator or manifesting generator, right? So there's only about like 20% of the world out there that's like projector. And I was recently listening to a master class, and the woman giving it was talking about, a lot of people will say, oh, projectors are non-energy types, and that like that kind of sucks for projectors, right? So instead of referring to projectors as like quote unquote non-energy to instead say, well, they're non-sacral, right? You don't make choices or you don't move about life with your sacral, which your sacral, for anyone who doesn't know, is like right around your belly button. It's kind of that drive, it's that like grounded kind of driving force. So projectors are a lot more airy fairy. And in this same workshop that I was listening to, this woman gave this analogy of building a house. And I feel like this will really resonate for a lot of people. So like manifestors, they are the people who like in the tribe of people, right? They are going out up over the hill and they're scouting, they're looking for the place to build the house. And then the projectors, so manifestors find the spot, okay, we're going to build the house here. The projectors come in and they say, okay, great, we're going to design the house. I'm going to give you all the tools. Here's your list of things that you need to do. And then generators, you come and build the house because you're really good at this one thing. Go and do it over and over and over again. Manny Gens, you come in and you decorate the house because you are like the Tasmanian devil and you need about 12 things to focus on. And then the reflectors, you come in and because they're only about 1% of the population, right? Reflectors, you come in and you're the person who goes over all the checks and balances and says, yep, I'm inspecting the house. It looks good, or you should change this thing. And I really love that analogy because I really feel like all the projectors that I've met just have this amazing way of being like, there's an easier way to do the thing that you're butting your head against. Try it
Mhm.
this way and then report back to me, right? And I think it's so valuable, right? For you to be able to look at something and say, oh, yeah, I see what you're doing, but like, if you shift these two things, it'll work better, right? And I think that is where the real power lies for projectors to be able to have that view, especially when you're a 6-2, right? So the 6-2 profile is like you go through these phases of life where you're like in the chaos, you're doing all the things, you're experimenting, making all the mistakes, and then like I
Yeah.
think from like 30 to 60 you're on the roof, quote unquote, right? Where you're like looking down and going, dude, you guys are a hot mess. You should probably change these things. And then you get after 60, you come off the roof and you're like, oh, yeah, come here. I can help you. Come on, let's go. Like let's do this thing. So I think there's such great like wisdom there that a projector brings to the table. And like for me, because I am a Manny Gen, I feel like when I'm around projectors, my energy, it doesn't get drained, but it gets like I can come back down and I'm like, oh, it's like a breath of fresh air
Oh, that's nice.
to be able to not have to function at that like high rate of energy, right?
Yeah.
Where I can like relax and be like, oh, I don't have to go 100 miles a minute. I can slow down.
Yeah. 100%. It's interesting you're
Oh.
talking about like the low like energy because we've talked about this, many of times about, how my chart is and like everything is open and I am a mental projector and
Hmm.
so I it's just all in my mind and so trying to I guess talk to myself or talk to a person or talk to a wall, whatever it is to help me kind of like make these decisions but then also um trying to guard. That's what I was looking for. Trying to like guard my energy because everything is so open that if somebody comes around me and they're feeling a certain type of way, well, I can absorb that,
Right.
right? Like somebody comes around me and they're, you know, mad, whatever, now my energy is kind of like thrown off. And I always attributed that to like, I just thought that I was always very sensitive. Like every friend I've ever had is like, why are you so sensitive? Like, I don't know, but like I can feel like the shift in I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. Like I just feel like, like I just feel like I feel a shift. Like I feel like a shift in the room. Like it's weird. Like I feel like that's not I need to be not around that person because I feel their energy, it's weird. Like I don't, and I don't like a lot of people in my space because of that.
Hmm.
Right. And I've always just been very private because of that. And so now having a business, where I have to be seen, which took a long time, three
Yeah.
years, long
Yeah.
time for me. Just gonna keep it real with y'all, keep it a buck. 3 years for me to finally, be able to like be okay with being seen and telling my story and talking about this. Before, like I didn't want that because of the unwanted energy and kind of attention and not knowing how to move through that. So that's something that I am kind of like working on as well. And so I'll keep you posted on how this goes, but
Yeah.
that's
I
something
love
that I'm
that.
trying to
And
kind
I
of like
think,
guard it.
right. And I think so two things, like mental projectors are also a very rare breed, right? There's not a lot of mental authorities, just like it's just not. And so, yeah, like being able to have either a trusted person where you can like literally call them up and be like, yo, this is what I'm thinking, let me word vomit. Or, yeah, talking to yourself and hearing that thought process can be super, super powerful for mental authorities, just because like it allows you to like work through all those like inner workings as you're like navigating it, right? Like as the thoughts are coming, to be able to speak them, to then come back to like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea. Or no, actually, this is a really great idea, right? And being able to like function like that and be in that place of like, oh, this feels really good. And I feel like, I feel like I'm putting out my value, because that's also very important for projectors, is to be able
Mhm.
to put your value out there. And that's where a lot of your like, when it comes to, lead generation, which actually leads into my next question. But like when you're thinking about your lead generation, I'm curious, do you tend to connect with people better when you've offered like some sort of value, whether that's a post or an email, or, like being able to share snippets of your story? Do you feel like that connects you to people better? Or do you feel like when you're doing some of the more traditional, and I'd say traditional in quotes, of like, market research or asking questions, like in terms of your own lead generation, like how do you feel like your human design has played a part in that journey?
So I think that it's a little mix of both, right? So I just recently started, um, sharing kind of like value and being consistent, right? Because I've been doing it, but being consistent with it. I have a Facebook group that I'm trying to grow, that has, not just holistic and sustainable brands, but like all e-commerce brands in it, um, to show value. And I'll do lives and have been getting some eyes there. Nothing has really converted yet, but also just offering just value, like you said. Like, for example, I don't even know what Facebook group I was in, but there was a young lady and she needed help. She needed somebody to just look over her lead magnet. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, that's fine. Like, I have time, right? So I went ahead and I looked through it and I gave her, all of the feedback. And I mean, this this woman is a coach for women of color, that to encourage them to like live boldly. And she lives very boldly, and she's been very bold in just sharing my stuff and just being supportive and just, so yes, that's not necessarily like a lead, right? She's not really my niche, but just by I like to say, like, it's a blessing to be a blessing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a blessing to be a blessing. And so being able to quote unquote bless her with, well,
Yeah.
she thought it was a big blessing, right? Like I didn't think it was anything, but being able to do that for her, has led to her sending me, oh, you should come to this like networking event with me, like come to like this, like, hey, I saw that. Maybe you should like, so it's been like kind of like opened up like this door of I wouldn't have known those things. Like I wouldn't have met the people that I met through
Right.
these things if it wasn't for her, right? So I definitely think that way. But then also, my thing when I first started was like cold pitching. and I was able to get a lot of traction that way. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going back to that. So we're going to see kind of which one yields the better result.
Yeah.
But just even trying to provide value in the email, in the first email,
Right. Yeah.
that's like, oh, okay, well, let's get on a call instead of just we talked about and everybody's talking about right now, like not automatically just like, let's get on a call. Like, no, like let's date first. Like let's let me know what you're talking about first, right? Before we kind of just
Yeah.
dive into you trying to sell me something because everybody's trying to sell something right now. It's crazy.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And when, like most people, and I would argue everyone buys based on an emotion, right? Like a feel good
Mm,
or like, oh, I have this pain point, I have this pain and I need to get rid of this emotional pain, right? So I'm curious, I'll be
mm,
curious to know like over the next coming months, right? To see how how those two work out for you because I know there's a lot of people, especially in the coaching world, who are like, ew, cold DMs, cold outreach, and like I have been in business long enough that I've tried a little bit of everything. I've
mm.
seen cold pitching and like cold DMs, cold emails work super great for some people. I've seen it fail miserably for other people, and that's like just how it worked
Mm,
out. But when I look at their human designs, right? When I go in and it's like, okay, well, you've tried that and like, but your energy, like my energy is a responding energy. So I don't necessarily, for me to like reach out as a cold outreach, that is very
mm,
draining for me. Where it's like,
mm.
oh man, this feels kind of hard. Where I can go on social media and ask a bunch of questions, get responses, get really lit up, and then slide into people's DMs and be like, hey, yeah, we were having a great conversation. Let's continue right here.
Yeah.
That feels really good for me and my energy. And I love it when people are like, I'm trialing these two things and I want to see which one works better. Because at the end of the day, that's what business is about, right? It
Hmm.
comes down to numbers and you have to be consistent in order to get any kind of feedback.
Yes, consistency. Consistency is key.
Yeah. And I started my business in 2007. So like right at the beginning, maybe it wasn't the beginning, but the hustle culture was like the thing in
Yeah.
2007 to like probably, I don't know, probably right up until the pandemic, honestly. Right? Where it was like, oh, I'm hustling, I'm doing all my side gigs, I'm working 80 hours a week. And like I left corporate so I wouldn't have to work 80 hours a week. Like,
Mhm.
um, I do believe in consistency and I do believe that that is a muscle you have to exercise. You have to figure out like what does consistency look like for you? Is that sending one email per day? Is that going into 20 Facebook groups per day? Is
Yeah.
that pitching to 100 people in the DMs per day? Like what is that thing? And how can you repeat it? Because at some point, business becomes a numbers game, right? The more people you reach out to, the more
Hmm.
feedback you will get, and the more sales calls you can have, right? And it literally is that
Right.
simple. No matter how much anyone wants to
It is,
complicate it, it literally boils down to that.
right? But simple, not easy, right?
Exactly.
Because if
Yes.
you
Yes.
are somebody that, I was very private. And so being on social media and like sharing anything on social media is like pulling teeth for me. Like it is like, I still have this mindset that I'm really trying to get over. Like, why do you need to know my business? But it's like, girlfriend, you have a business. They need to know your
Right.
business. Like,
Yes.
make it make sense, Ashley. But
Right.
so that is something that I am trying, really, really hard to one, define what consistency looks like for me,
Yeah.
with having low energy and having a chronic illness that gives me really low energy. And then accepting that and not beating myself up about it because I see other people that are able to do everything every day, right, without a
Hmm.
problem. Um, so that, and then just sticking with it when it even, with however long that it takes because I feel like, and not to get like so like woo or whatever, but like I just don't think that if you have good intentions and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're trying, like God, universe, whatever it is that you believe in, like he's not gonna let you just like not gonna leave it hanging. Like you're not going to
Right.
be like, I can't pay my bills, right? Like it's you're going to figure out something, right? Get like a second job, whatever it is, but like you're going to be able to figure it out, just being consistent and not giving into the thought of like, well, this isn't working. I suck. I'll just go back to a corporate job because there's somebody, I truly, truly believe that there's somebody out there that is like, needs your help. And that's why you had the idea to start your business in the first place, because you just don't have random ideas. Not like
Right.
this, right? Like,
Yeah.
not like, and then to have it continuously, like, I don't know if it was like this for you, Maggie, for your coaching, but like continuously pull at you. Like, I've loved writing since I was 8. Like I would write stories when I was 8 years old with about my friends in my neighborhood, going like scary stories, what mystery stories, whatever. I had 2 blogs, right? And then it was kind of like I was living in China. And I remember when I wasn't teaching English, because that's what I was doing out there, I would still write in my blogs and I would just to myself, maybe out
Yeah.
loud too, but they, I spoke English. They don't know. Maybe they did. I don't know. But you're in this cafe and you're just like, if I could just do this, this would be dope. Like I would love my life. And then to come home for what I thought was going to be like a short little vacation in 2020, something called COVID-19 going around.
Still on
And
vacation.
still on, like it was Chinese New Year, had to leave, right? Like
Right.
needed to come back. And realizing like, oh, I left 3 days before like they closed the border. And so now I can't go home. So
Right.
now what do I do? And it really was like God, universe being like, well, so I mean, I don't think that whatever your story is, I know my story is kind of like, whoa, but whatever the story is, I just don't, again, like long story short, short story long, I don't think that you just had this random idea just to have this random idea. Like I think that it was placed on you for a reason. And so, do yourself a favor and continue to figure out how to make it work
Yeah.
so that you can live the life that you really want to live instead of, a life that you feel obligated to live, because
Hmm.
that's not life.
Right. I agree with you 100% on all of that, right? Like if the idea to become an entrepreneur is like on your heart, on your mind, like you can't stop thinking about it, if you don't chase that, like if you don't take the chance and chase after it, and I'm not saying, I mean, you could rage quit your 9 to 5, that's I did, right? Like, but I also have friends who were like, no, I actually really loved my 9 to 5, and it was really hard to like step
Yeah.
away even when the business was doing really well. So like, like if that dream has been placed on you, I think it's really important to at least explore it and to be like,
Mhm.
oh, what is this thing? How can I make money with it? Like what do I need to do to replace my current income, right? And is there someone I can help right now who could kickstart what I'm trying to do, who understands me?
Yeah.
I think that's all really important. And, yeah, when I think about it, I've been teaching people, which is basically what I do now, right? Teaching
Mhm.
people to have a conversation. I taught yoga. I still teach yoga, but I used to teach yoga teachers how to teach classes. I
Oh,
used to teach little kids. So I was in 4-H when I was a kid,
okay.
and I was in it's kind of like horse Jeopardy. We call it Quiz Bowl. So you go in front of a panel and you answer
Okay.
these questions. It's like 2 teams. It's kind of like Family Feud meets Jeopardy, right? Where you have all these subjects and you
Okay.
ask questions, answer them. So I wound up teaching little kids Quiz Bowl for quite a few years, and then like I stopped because I got busy with the photo business. But even in the photo business, I started teaching people how to take photos. So like I've always taught people. So in
Oh, wow.
coaching,
Okay.
like now, once I
Hmm.
stepped into coaching, I was like, well, it feels really good to teach. And like, what can I teach people about? So like having a
Mhm.
conversation was just such a natural thing for me to do. And then once I discovered human design, I was like, oh, I can talk for days, 4 days about human design. Oh my gosh. So I have I
Yeah.
have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe two more questions. So this is one of them, and it came to me because we were kind of talking about energy, and I know like for you with a chronic illness, and then knowing that you're also a projector, so just not
Mhm.
having the access to like high amounts of energy. Is there a time that kind of sticks out for you where you ignored that energy or lack thereof, that you were just like, I just have to push through? And like what happened when you ignored that, where you were trying to be a manifesting generator? I'm
So,
curious, yeah, what happened there? And then can you also describe a time when you did like respect your energy?
so yes, this actually just happened.
Oh,
Happens all the time. Um, so I um so I had to fly to Houston to get my meds because all my doctors are there. That's where I was diagnosed, so all my doctors are still there. And so traveling and feeling like the crap gap between, your last time that you got your med to like getting your med again, it wasn't so bad, but it was lingering in the background. So like fatigue, brain fog. But I was still taking calls, I was still working. Like I was still like I was in Houston, I used to live there, so I was still trying to see friends, right? Get my infusion, hang out, go back home, come back home. I took like the first flight out in Houston. So, I come back home, like nothing happened, still working, like, oh, I have my meds. I feel good, right? Still working, blah, blah, blah. Leave Thursday, first flight out, fly to Washington to see my family, surprise my niece, brother-in-law's in a band. So it's there, still working, still taking calls, hanging out with, a 7-year-old that
yeah.
has unlimited amounts of energy, with a dog that has unlimited, everybody in the family has unlimited amounts of energy, um, which I love, but it's a lot, right? When you're not used to it. And then coming home, and then coming home late night Monday, working on a couple of hours sleep, still working, still going, still working, still going. And I'm feeling it like I'm tired, but I still got to do these things. Like I got to push through, knowing what could be the result of this. And so Friday, I'm like, I'm so fatigued. I cannot put really like a sentence together. Like I'm so tired. Had a meeting. There was confusion about like what we were like in the wrong rooms and was like, it's fine. We're rescheduling. And Maggie, don't you know that I was in the bed Friday till Monday?
Oh my gosh.
Fatigue, like could
Yeah.
not. Like it was just like I can't. Like I'm just in the bed scrolling TikTok, watching movies, like because I was going like a crazy person after getting 6 months worth of drugs pumped into me, right? So that's one. And then two, you know, I'm a projector and I have chronic illness. So I have multiple
Right.
sclerosis. That's what the chronic illness is. And so fatigue is like that is a big, big symptom, big one.
Mhm.
And so knowing that and knowing my limits and then just trying to ignore them because I want to have fun with my family. Like I want to be able to still do my job. Like I still want to see friends. Like I want to have like a life. Um, so that was the end result of that. But there have been times that I am like remind myself like it's not worth it. So like after sleeping all of that time, and so fatigue is not like oh, I slept 10 hours, so now I feel better. No, I
Right.
could sleep like 20 hours and still feel horrible. But I think it was just like the culmination of like those basically 3 days of like just resting, and then sleeping for like 12 hours, Sunday night. So yesterday I was like, oh, I have all this energy. And then I look up and it's like, oh, it's like 7 o'clock at night. Let me hurry up and finish these things. And I mean, I could have kept going, but I was like, yeah, but at what cost? Because my body will decide if I don't decide to slow down, my body will decide for me. And it will probably be like at the most, inconvenient time, inconvenient day that it will be like, well, we're not doing anything. Sucks to suck, right? Like get in bed. Like,
Yes.
so those are the two times. And I mean, I think that if you ask any projector, but like anybody with a chronic illness, like it is, I imagine it to be like like walking on like a tightrope, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
what it's called.
Yep.
And just keeping things balanced because like if the wind blows north and it usually blows south, then something in your body might be like the wind is wrong. So this
Right.
is what you're dealing with today, right? But
Yeah.
so you just have to kind of keep this balance to make sure that everything works the way that it's supposed to work. And sometimes that's very inconvenient and it's not ideal for running a business or ideal for like trying to like have a life outside of business. But it's kind of like I'd rather have that than to experience what I just experienced. So
Yeah.
that's
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. And I think, like I've seen a lot of people shift the way they run businesses now, like moving into 2024. So, what I think is really cool is that you know how you don't want to run a business. And
Mhm.
like and now because you're the boss, because you're the CEO, you get to decide, yep, that way does not work for me. And
Yeah.
I'm going to do this how I want to do this. And that's how I'm going to live my life. And I think that is so cool when we think about like just the opportunities that having a business allows us to do, right? To
Mhm.
be able to support yourself financially, but also to be like, you know what? I am only going to work so many hours a day. And that allows me to do these things, but also as a projector, it allows you to hone in on that rest, right? And I
Mhm.
think for a lot of projectors, when people say rest, and I think this is kind of a collective thing, when you say rest, people automatically assume like you're laying on the couch scrolling TikTok or whatever, which is totally fine because like I do that too. But I would encourage you to think of things like, okay, what are things outside of my job that really like refuel me? Maybe
Mhm.
that is laying on the couch all day, and that's cool. But like, do I love just sitting outside enjoying nature? Do I love hanging out with a friend for coffee? And, like, what are those things? Or like reading and learning just for the sake of learning. I know people
Learning.
who
Yeah.
are like, I just want to sit down and read a book, and I feel so like, just feels so good in my body to be like, oh, wow, I get to do this right now,
Yeah.
and like lean into those things and allow that like value that you're bringing in to like permeate into your business.
100%.
That's awesome. So, my last question, what is one piece of advice that you have for anyone out there who is in the midst of chaos in their business?
Mm.
What is like a clarity point that you can bring to the people?
Stop. Like just so like duh. But stop. And not like stop abruptly, right? But just like kind of like start taking inventory of what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're feeling and who it is that you're around and try to figure out where that chaos is coming from. And if it's within you, then stop. And you need to figure out how to move forward without feeling the way that it is that you're feeling, whether it's, you're feeling like stress, you're feeling, like down, whatever the feeling is that's causing you to feel like there's chaos all around you. Um, Stop and sit down and journal and sit with that and figure out what it is that is going on. Because if you don't, it's not going to get better. This isn't just going to like go away. Like this will continue until you figure out what it is and what it is that you need to change and allow yourself, like you said, Maggie, like to your point, like, you're the boss. You're the boss. Your clients aren't the boss. You're the boss, right? Um, So you decide, hey, I need some time. Maybe you need to pull back. I don't know. I don't know, their business, but you need to pull back and you need to sit with that because if you don't, like I said, it's going to continue. And I was at this point earlier this year. I was working at an agency because things are really slow and then still trying to freelance. So my life was insane and it was chaos. And I burnt myself out so badly that I really did not work, could not come up, could not write. And that's my job to come up with ideas and write. Um, for like a couple of months. And if I'm really being honest with myself, it was probably like 3 months before like I finally was like, okay, like I'm okay. Like, okay, my brain's back, like it's functioning and it's gonna be okay. But I mean, this was like an easy fix. Like it could have just been like accepting, accept that this is not working and
Right.
it's not worth it because, none of us, as far as I know, probably listening to this, none of us are saving lives.
No.
So it's going to be fine. Like
Right.
it's going to be fine. Like, okay,
Yeah.
we missed the deadline. That sucks. I promise you, it's going to be fine because nobody's going to die because you had to cancel a coaching call, you had to cancel a meeting, the email didn't go out, the post didn't get posted, whatever it is, it's going to be fine. And if it's not fine, then it doesn't even matter then, right? Like if the
Right.
world ends, then who cares?
Yeah.
None of it matters
Right.
anymore.
Right. Yes, yes, absolutely. I love that. Yeah. And I think, just knowing that, knowing that even though your business is about other people, right? Because a lot of both of the people that we both serve, they are service-based, right? They've got
Mhm.
e-commerce, they're coaches, they're course creators, they're, like people who really care about other people, right? It feels really hard to be like, oh, but all this pressure on me
Yeah,
when really like if you think about it through consistency, like if you're burnt out or exhausted or you're at your wit's end and you're trying to just put the stuff out there just to put it out there, it's not going to land.
not gonna land.
The
No,
energetics
it's not.
behind it are not going to land. So if you are rested, if you're feeling in the right space, it's going to land a lot better than something that was like, "Ah, I just got to put this thing out there just because I got to put it out there, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not where it's at.
And I want to talk about that too. Like, I know we're out of time, but who told you? Like, who is this person that told you that like you had to do? Who told you that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's all the gurus, right? The internet gurus on Instagram and Facebook and blah blah blah. But really, I mean, yeah, I can see a time and a place where, like, yes, if you are posting at certain times of the day when your audience is looking, that's great. But if it's not generating any conversations, if nobody's liking, if nobody's commenting, if you're not following up with anyone, it's not going to get seen because the
Right.
algorithm is going to go, oh, nobody's looking at this. I'm not going to show it to anyone. So, like, you've got to put this stuff out there
Mhm.
that, people are going to respond to. And I imagine it'd be similar for emails, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
sending cold emails, you probably send a bunch of them, and whatever ones respond back are probably in some sort of alignment with what you want to offer.
Exactly. 100% with that, because you said emails and I just remembered. So, that is something, even if you're not in e-commerce, I would say that if you are selling something, if you're not traditional e-commerce, right? Like selling hats or socks or books, whatever it is, right? If you're selling something online, that's e-commerce. And so I have a free Facebook group. I will give you the link, Maggie, a free Facebook group where I talk about growth tactics for your e-commerce brand. And since one of the assets that I specialize in is email. Emails will be covered, ads will be covered, website copy will be covered, but then even just different strategies that you can use that I've used in the past that have been successful. I talk about those things as well. But I mean, It's always going to be the same. Like Maggie said, the energetics behind it has to align, and you have to know who your real audience is, because as much as we would like to serve everybody, everybody is not your customer. So we
Right.
have to figure out who it is. They're
Yeah.
out there. I promise you, they're out there, because
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
bajillion people out there, but we just got to find them. And that's more than half the battle. Once you do that, then you're good, you're golden. So, but I
Right.
would just like to like invite you, if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, but I don't know, just to come over. And I do lives once a month and do
Yeah.
audits. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's
That's
just a good
awesome.
community.
Yeah. I will absolutely drop the link below. Is there anywhere else where people can connect with you on socials or anywhere like that?
Yeah, so Facebook, I'm just Ashley Bryant. And then on Instagram and TikTok, I am Ashley Bryant Copy. And then my website is ashleybryantcopy.com.
Cool. Awesome. I love it. I will drop all the links below. And everyone, you should absolutely go and check out Ashley's stuff. I love it. I find so much value in it. Like when I see her posts,
Oh,
I'm always like, oh my gosh, I never thought about it like that.
oh,
So
well, good. I'm so glad that you feel
yeah,
that way.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. So
wonderful.
I love it. Yeah, is there any last tidbits that you want to offer to the people today?
Just be great and don't let anybody tell you that you're not. And whatever your human design is, accept it and just learn to learn to go with it. Just
I
that's
love
all I
it.
have. Just accept it and learn to go with it and you know, be good to everybody. That's it. I don't have anything else.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Ashley, and look
Thank
for all of her
you.
links below.
Bye.
Wow, what a great interview. Thank you so much for showing up here on the Chaos to Clarity podcast. Again, my name is Maggie. I'm so excited to connect with you. You can find all of the information, all of the links below in the show notes for today's interview. And I hope you have the best day ever.